I want to talk a little bit more about the way the top-down system that we're accustomed to for civilization affects the way we think and think about history. It starts with one man who tends to stand for almost God in the way that he is viewed, and then several subordinates who are viewed as somewhat of an equal to him. Each one runs an area that is ascertained to their own personality and style. Therefore, they run the culture of that area, while the big man himself runs the overall idea. This means that although even if you work at the same place or live in the same place, it's going to look different. The culture there will be different from the way you were in the other place, which will mean that you're going to have rumors and ideas about how things should be run depending on where you are. For example, the Ice Kingdom might need a lot more protein just to stay alive, so they kill a lot of meat. So therefore everybody goes, "Oh, you like a nice barbecue, don't you? We're going to prepare a barbecue for you, even if you don't like barbecue." Or someone might reference how big everybody is where you're from, even though you're from a completely different place, and it's kind of airy, people are short, and you have to do a lot more flying than expected. Everything is departmentalized to the point that even if you have the same job and same idea of what you need to do, you're going to end up looking different from the way others were doing things. Let me show you an example. This beautiful golf course is found in Scottsdale, Arizona, but if we were just to move a little bit over this way, we would find the Saguaro Park, which has peacocks and desert landscape. There's only a few miles separating the two, but the way they live is very different. In intercultural history, we treat this like a bomb. They are the main part of the culture. Then you have people affected by that culture. Then you have people who have heard of that culture, or around that culture. Then you have people who, they've heard about it on TV or something, but they don't really understand it themselves. Then you have people who've never heard of the culture, except maybe pictures or something, and their minds simply cannot accept that this culture exists. And the way things are compartmentalized, you could actually be next door to one of these cultures, and it would look completely different from what you expect your neighborhood to look like. Far worse, you can only use stereotypes and generalizations to understand what the other is doing. As internet and roads start to connect us, we start to see those stereotypes, those ideas that we've had about the other. And we have to actually deal with the ideas that sometimes we might be wrong, or we've been basing everything off of a stereotype. Far worse, we have to see that they have stereotypes of us, and that others have stereotypes of even others. And it gets really awkward because we have to explain these ideas without having to sound, new to it. For the next set of videos, I would like to show you how this all works within various cultures. If you know the story of Jason and the Argonauts, you know that Medea had a great hand in him achieving his goals. She helped him get the fleece. She helped him escape the sun god. What nobody really realizes is she was a descendant of the sun god, and therefore, if she were Asian, would in fact be a goddess. But in Greek culture, she's merely a descendant, a human, and far worse, to the Greeks, she was foreign. So Euripides, when he wrote the play Medea, he decided to make her sound foreign, and have her ideals kind of destroyed, and thus she portrayed a great revenge on Jason. He threw her away because he wanted a more conventional wife, a more common wife, a wife who was Greek, so that his children could be raised as proper Greeks and be accepted into society. Medea didn't like this, and using her full goddess powers, destroyed everything that she had helped Jason achieve. Then she appeared on a dragon and flew away. Had this have been a play in China or some other country, this would have been an obvious sign that she was a goddess. But, to the ancient Greeks, she was merely a foreign weirdo, and they didn't understand what had happened. The story of Medea has been shown through several medias, for example, music, literature, TV, plays, and everything else you can think of. She's even portrayed in Marvel comic books, though she's killed later on. In African American culture, she is shown as a part of the African experience, foreignized to the point that people simply don't understand her, even though she has great status. Within African American culture, there's also a term called Madea, short for Mother Deer. It basically is this woman who you're related to, but you're not really certain how. She's angry, she'll beat you, and then she'll give you the biggest hug and make sure you're taken care of. It's difficult to explain if you've never lived in the culture, but you've probably seen it. Tyler Perry, a playwright in African American culture, created a character named Medea, based on his mother and aunt. Though she could be anybody, that neighborhood woman you call auntie. And he's portrayed her in multiple movies and multiple plays, and even into cartoons. Having a man portray a woman really isn't that big in African American culture. Or even for that part, men dressed as women in comedy. Or even for that part, men playing women in plays in general, in history throughout the world, in fact. So it comes as no surprise that when Madea was first introduced into movies, Tyler Perry took his character and introduced her using the same story as Medea. A woman is torn apart from her family. Her husband is sleeping with another woman, is sending her away, and she's trying to deal with it. Introduce Madea, who destroys places and does a lot of damage, trying to help her find herself and find her own groove. It's even in the story, if you just look at it. If you compared the two stories, you would find that they're almost exactly alike. I actually showed the portrayal of Medea on Wikipedia to my wife because she's seen Diary of a Mad Black Woman. She read the story and said, "Hey, it's the same story." But somehow, when discussed in academia or other places, it simply isn't connected. Even movie reviewers, like Roger Ebert here, didn't make the connection, even though they know about Medea. He simply got confused on how it could be so erratic in the story, how Medea could do all these things, and yet you felt a sadness for the main character. He didn't understand that Medea and Madea are the same person. I did find one review that did reference the Medea reference. However, the person reviewing it didn't really understand what was being talked about, and thus did not understand the ending being portrayed. Why is this happening? Because nobody can imagine Tyler Perry being super educated and rich and black. They can't imagine him using black culture as a way to make money, portray things within black culture, and for middle-class blacks to help him move forward. So, it's simply this. Academia cannot imagine African Americans as rich, educated, and using things within their culture to move forward in life. In the same way, the Greeks couldn't imagine Medea as a goddess, or how one Goomba could imagine the life of another Goomba in another world. Thank you very much for watching this video. The next video will be about Barrett and other portrayals of African Americans within Japanese culture. Little hint, it's really obvious what's happening if you ever thought about it.